For Pride Month, which was in June, one of our listeners, Chrissy, set up a fundraiser for Point Foundation, but she's planning to go ahead and leave it up for the rest of 2021. So please join in and donate if you can. The Point Foundation helps LGBTQ plus students achieve their goals of higher education with financial assistance, mentoring, leadership programming, and more. Your generosity helps Point provide scholarships and vital programs to a new generation of LGBTQ plus leaders. If you'd like to donate, go to our Instagram, Who's the Boss Podcast, and the link is in our bio. It's listed as Chrissy's Pride Foundation.
You and me?
Why?
Why? Well, why? Why not? I mean, a woman like you deserves a night out on the town.
You mean a date?
Yeah, a date.
Why?
Why? Well, because we've never done anything like that before.
Oh, yes, we have. Don't you remember? Jonathan fixed us up at that restaurant, Chez Renee.
Yeah, well, that was a misunderstanding.
What about last year's ad awards?
Well, that was business.
What about the time we went to see 101 Dalmatians?
That was a cartoon.
What about the time...
All right, fine. Let's not go out on a date. We've been out on millions of dates.
Well, we never have been out on a date.
So do you want to go or what?
Hello. Welcome back to...
Hey, yo. Oh, hey.
The Who's the Boss Podcast. I'm Tori.
I'm Kevin.
And we are here to rewatch and discuss every single episode of Who's the Boss. I'm going to apologize in advance. You're going to have to bear with us today.
Multiple problems.
So I got a new computer and I can't use GarageBand anymore. So I'm trying to record this on Audacity now, and there's just been a bit of a learning curve and different inputs and latency issues and all sorts of garbage that I don't know anything about. So
that's the first problem.
Yeah, and our neighbors are having a really loud party, which you're probably going to hear. And our cat's just the general asshole that he normally is. So, but we're going to pull this together because it's 10 o'clock and we're going to do this.
On a Sunday night.
Yeah, but at least we don't have to work tomorrow, which is nice.
I know. Like, apparently our neighbors got that memo, too.
Right, yeah. And
that there's no work tomorrow.
If we stop and start this, I don't even know how that's going to work. So let's try to not have to stop that much.
Okay, all right. Then I probably won't talk much.
Okay, but I do want to play a voicemail because we got a voicemail. And I would play AV saying, we got a voicemail, but I don't know where that file is.
Yeah,
and so we're not
what's
going to be able to
happening.
do that. So here's the voicemail.
Hi guys, my name is Renata. I am from Mexicali, Mexico. Well, I started watching Who's the Boss like 4 weeks ago. I know that it existed though, because in Mexico we did have our very own adaptation back in the 90s. It was exactly the same, but with Mexican actors, and I really loved it very much back then. But I had never watched the original one. Well, I did. I started watching it 4 weeks ago, and I finished the whole thing like in 2 weeks. I was so obsessed, I couldn't believe how good it was. So I was really depressed when it was over. So I decided to rewatch from scratch. And that's when I found your podcast, which has been a great help because every time I watch an episode, again, because I'm watching for the second time right now, I listen to your podcast and I'm like, whoa, I'm discovering things that I didn't notice when I watched the episode. So I want to thank you for doing this. I'm a big fan of the show, a big fan of Judith Light, especially. I love her acting, and well, Tony Danza was very cute as well. So thank you so much, guys, and I'll keep listening from Mexico. Bye.
Thank you, Renata, so much. That, especially right now when I'm in such a horrible mood. It's so great to hear that people are. And then she's in Mexico. That's
she
so
is.
awesome.
She's close to the border of California.
Yeah. So like really
Mexicali is
4 hours away.
And it's like north of her is Calexico, which is in California. But like it's literally I don't know where she is in Mexicali, but she's pretty close to the border.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you so much, and I'm so glad that you found us and that
that's great.
You're enjoying our ridiculous little commentary on this show. And I'm excited that it's another new person that has found the show.
That's right.
And watched it because, if they're going to do this reboot, we need to get more people on board, more new watchers on board
right.
watching. So thank you. And I got your question on the YouTube channel, and I will answer it as soon as we're done with this podcast. And
Yeah.
I know you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so the episode we're going to cover today is Season 5, Episode 15. The title is called First Date. It first aired on Tuesday, February 21st, 1989. And the TV Guide summary says, when Tony discovers that Angela hired an escort for a business dinner, he asks her out on their first real date. All right, what's your...
Oh, my. Yeah. All right. So Mona feels both offended as dating role model and as a failure as mother. Sorry, I'm just reading the words. Finding out Angela took an escort to an awards event. After hearing the frustrating story of her disastrous prom date from both ladies, Tony reluctantly accepts to ask her on a real date, as opposed to several accidental ones. That's it.
Oh, that's it? Okay.
Yeah, that's over with. I'm sorry. I should have warned you.
Reluctantly. He is kind of reluctant.
He is.
I have mixed feelings about this episode.
Oh, all right.
But
Well, let's
talk about the writer. So the writer is Daniel Palladino.
Mm-hmm.
This is his first episode. Do you remember when we talked to Judith Light and she said that the creators of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel wrote for the show?
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that must be later seasons because I don't think we're there yet. Well, we're there now.
We're there.
Yeah, this is his first episode, first
okay.
date.
Well, when we talked to her, we were in like season 2 or something.
Yeah, I think so.
If
So Daniel Palladino and his wife, Amy Sherman Palladino, I believe, created The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Wow.
Yeah, so he is still working today. So he says he's the producer for it, but it says 2017 to 2019. So I believe they've shot more past 2019, so maybe they're not working on it anymore.
Oh, maybe.
Also, The Gilmore Girls, Family Guy.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, lots of stuff. Roseanne.
lots of credits.
The Sinbad Show. Yeah. Okay, so this is his first episode of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 10 episodes as a writer on Who's the Boss. He will go
All right, so
almost
we'll
to
see
the
him
end.
for a while.
Yeah. Okay, now when this episode opens, Angela is coming home from a date. We don't really know anything about the date. She just walks in. They're very formally dressed. She's joking with the guy like, oh, could you believe how long that speech went? They're having a good time. He's in a tux. He helps her take her jacket off. And then Angela notices that her mother's sitting on the couch.
Of course, Mona, again, just hanging out in the house.
Yeah. I mean, why not?
Go away.
I
Go
know.
home.
Because it's not like she has to babysit at this point. The
Right,
kids
just go home.
Are older. Samantha's 16.
Live your life.
Go to your little backyard apartment and have all the sex you're always bragging about.
Right, where are those people?
And Angela's like, oh, Mother, you're here. And Mona says, yes, here. I'm here quite a lot, which is true. She's like, it's kind of like home to me. So she asks Angela, how was the awards ceremony? And Angela says she was a runner-up in one category. And then Mona looks at the man standing behind her and said, did the winner get twins? Now, this guy is very handsome.
Right.
And Mona's obviously impressed. So then he holds his hand out to her and he says, my name is Bart. Nice to meet you. But Angela's trying to move this along quickly because she wants to get this guy out of the house now.
Right.
He thanks her for a very special evening. She thanks him. And then before he goes to leave, he says, there's just one thing that I need to ask you first. And she's like, oh, sure. And he says, how would you like to pay for this?
Right.
Then he pulls out what I'm guessing is one of those old credit card machines.
Like a carbon copy
yeah,
credit
you put
card
the
machine.
card down and then you
like
run
it back and forth.
So,
and then it produces a carbon copy for her and for him.
Yes. So he walked around with that as
All
his
night.
like Venmo. That was Venmo
That was
or
Venmo.
PayPal back
Yeah, I
then.
guess,
Squarespace. He didn't have the little
Squarespace.
the little
What the hell is Squarespace? I don't even know what that is.
Oh, I think that's another business thing, isn't
I
it?
thought it was Foursquare.
Oh, maybe it's Foursquare. Maybe Squarespace is how you make a website easy.
I don't know.
I don't know. Not like we have sponsors.
I've never heard
so
of
never heard
Foursquare.
any of these
I mean, Square.
You just said Foursquare.
I meant Squarespace.
Yeah. Maybe it's maybe that's what it is. But you know, like when you go to arts and crafts fairs and they have the little dongle that they put into their phone,
Yeah.
and then you swipe your card.
Yeah, that's Foursquare.
Okay, so that's what I was referencing.
Oh, that's Squarespace.
But no, back then he had to carry this around,
All night.
get her card, take a little carbon copy, and then I guess submit it afterwards. I don't even know what you did with that.
They run the
afterwards.
card at wherever. I don't know how
Oh.
you ran cards back then.
Yeah.
There was no interwebs.
I know,
so-
like I remember having it done, like one of the first times I used a
guess
credit
there was
card,
like a-
but I just don't remember how it
I don't
actually
know.
worked. Okay,
That's all right.
so now Mona's like, wait, what? And Angela says, oh, why don't you just send me the bill?
Right.
And she ushers him out the door.
Right,
So he's
get
like,
out.
okay, well, thank you. You know, it was a really great time. Nice night. See you later. So as soon as he leaves, Mona is like, Angela knows she's in for it. And Mona's just staring at her
I know.
like she cannot believe
Mona
what
shouldn't have
happened.
been in the house, though. In all honesty. Like, what are you doing?
And Angela says, Mona says, I'm shocked. And then Angela says, oh, mother, single women executives hire escorts all the time. Is that really?
I don't know.
So
No,
I had-
maybe.
I
What do
had
we
never
know?
actually heard of, and I mean, I don't know much about escorts, but my thought is that normally it's someone that you hire for sex. I did not realize that there would be any kind of business for hiring an escort without sex, like just for a date. But maybe that is a real thing. I've never actually heard of it.
I don't know. I mean, who knows?
But I guess, I mean, it doesn't matter because they needed it for this plot point. So I'm sure it's happened at some point. Like, maybe women really are just asking men to go out on a date with them for these kind of appearances. And not like but Angela said, you know, like she could have asked, I don't know, Jack or somebody at the office, but she says everyone was busy. So, okay, she says
Ridiculous.
yes, everybody, people hire escorts all the time. Then Mona says, I'm not shocked that you did it. I'm shocked that you got gypped, which I think we realized we shouldn't say anymore, right?
No, I think it's okay.
Oh, it is okay.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I think it's not bad. Like I thought it was, but it's not.
Okay, but it's not.
If you
She
look up,
says if you pay for a car wash, you don't leave before the buff and polish. So basically, Mona's saying,
you should have
yeah,
continued.
why didn't you get your sex out of this escort
Right.
date? And Angela says, I didn't hire him for a buff and polish. And Angela, I mean, I do feel like Angela's, you know, she's got a good open mind on her as far as when it comes to sex and stuff. It doesn't seem like a prude, but having sex with a escort, I think, is even too out there for Angela. Not to mention that it's technically illegal. But I'm guessing that this whole escort service, if you're not having sex, isn't illegal, because otherwise I don't think Angela would have done it.
Right.
So Angela says, listen, everybody was busy, including Tony, and I was not going to go to this thing by myself. And Mona's like, you know, okay, I get it, but I just really would love to see you on a date with a real person, like for real. So again, establishing that Angela hasn't dated in a while, in addition to Tony, who we already know hasn't dated in a while. And Angela's like, you know, I've just been so busy, I don't have time to meet men. And Mona says, tell me about it. Your bedroom could be turned into a sensory deprivation tank.
I know.
So mean.
I know. And then she's like, I'm perfectly comfortable with my life.
But it's not like Angela's just going to have a string of men going up to her bedroom in the same
she's not
across
Mona.
the hall from where her son sleeps.
Right.
Yes. And Tony's daughter and Tony for that matter. But Angela says, you know, I am perfectly comfortable with my life just the way it is. And if you tell anyone about this, I will make an orphan out of myself. And just then Tony walks in the door. So I guess Tony couldn't go because he must have been studying for a big test.
All right. All
'Cause
right.
he's got
Because
books in
Tony's
his hands.
College. I forget.
Yes, he's in college and he's got his little books in his hand and he looks like he was studying. He asks how they were going. He asks her how the awards banquet was, and she's like, "Oh, it was fine." And then she starts trying to quickly cover, like, "Oh, I took an associate of mine, a terrific guy named Brad."
Right.
And Mona says, "Bart."
Right. She doesn't even remember the name.
She's like, "Oh yeah, yeah." I mean, it looks like her and Bart were having a nice time. They were, you know, joking and stuff on the way home. You would think she would have remembered his name.
Right.
But they had to get that joke in. And So she's like, oh, he likes it when I call him Brad. Okay, well, good night. And she runs upstairs. And Tony's like, what's with her? And Mona says, I can't tell you, but if you were to guess, I would let you know if you were right or not. And so Tony's like, what? And before he can even ask or try to attempt to guess, she just blurts out, Angela paid a man to take her out tonight. And then Tony's like, wow, I worded that perfectly because I got it right.
Right. He didn't even ask anything.
Mona says, my own daughter having to hire an escort. And Tony kind of can't believe it either. He says, Angela's so funny. She's beautiful. She's smart. She's beautiful.
I think he said something twice
Yeah.
there.
Mona says, you said beautiful twice. And he says, well, she's 2 times as beautiful. And nice. he says, what I mean is any man would be proud to take her out. And Mona's like, if she could find a man. Really laying it on thick here. And even Tony's like, it's a little strong. And Mona's like, when the escort left, she was trying to be really cavalier about it. But I knew that underneath that facade, she was hurt. And then now Tony's like, well, what can we do to make her feel better? So Mona decides that Angela would feel better if she could restore her self-esteem by going out on a date with an attractive man. With a man who thinks that she is attractive as well. And then Mona's all like getting up into Tony's face.
You got to give Mona credit.
She's trying.
We are 5 seasons in,
I know.
and she's still trying to get them together.
Yeah, okay, so
She never gives up.
Let's rewind here a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is 5 years in now. They've been living together.
Right.
The 2 of them have already admitted to themselves, possibly each other, in a roundabout way, that they are in love with each other or have strong feelings for each other.
Sure.
And it's like Tony has never thought of going on a date with Angela.
Right, like it's so new.
Right. Like, yeah. Oh, I mean, okay. What are you saying here? So,
like he had to be talked into it.
Yes, it's very odd. And I feel like they were sort of like, okay, we need to get these 2 on a date. So how are we going to do this in the least romantic way possible? Oh, okay, I know how we'll do it. We'll just have it set up as like under false pretenses kind of date.
Oh, he's got to ruin it.
So now Tony's onto her, and he's like, oh, I don't think that's a good idea. And she's like, no, it's a perfect idea. You're strong, you're comforting, you're attractive, and you're hallway close.
I like that one, hallway close.
And he's like, I don't know, me and Angela on a date? And he's like, well, we're friends, but some friends date. But then if we date, are we still friends? And he's just kind of mumbling to himself at this point. The Mona's like, you want me to leave you alone so that you can have this conversation with yourself? But then Tony decides he's going to do it. He says, all right, I'll ask her out. He's like, I'm going to give her a night to remember. And then Mona says, at least take her out to dinner first.
Classic Mona.
And he like chases her out of the living room.
Now,
the next morning, the kids are in the kitchen having breakfast. Tony comes in. He's got a little pep in his step because someone just gave him this novel idea of asking the woman he's lived with for 5 years out on a date.
Which he's never thought of before.
Yeah. And he asks the kids, is Angela down yet? They're like, no, not yet. And Sam wants to know what's up. He's like, oh, nothing. And he says, I'll tell you later. And Sam says, okay, tell me after you ask Angela out. So he's like, wait a minute, how do you know? And Jonathan says, Grandma woke us up last night to tell us.
Hey, why? Why insane Mona running upstairs, waking them out of their sleep at night to tell them this?
Each individually.
She's so excited.
To say your dad's going to ask or Angela or Tony's going to ask your mom out. Now, just then, Angela comes in the kitchen, and she's been out on a run. So she's like,
you know what? I was wondering where she was coming from, and I didn't really question it. But again, the hair's messy. Well, I should have figued that.
The hair, I know. Like we don't really know Angela to
Plus,
run in the morning.
who runs in that? I mean,
I know.
The shirt? It's a collared shirt, long sleeve shirt.
I know, but that's
what
like
threw me off.
The 80s sweatsuit.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So then Jonathan's like, okay, Tony, go ahead. I dare you. Which is also kind of weird for Jonathan because we know Jonathan wants the 2 of them to get together too.
Right.
But I feel like they just don't know how to write Jonathan at this point. And Sam's like, oh, grow up, let's go. So she gets Jonathan out of the kitchen so that they can be alone. And she says to Jonathan, can't you be more mature about this? And then she gives them kind of like googly eyes as she leaves and points to him. And Angela has no idea what's going on.
No.
She's like, what's with them? And Tony's like, oh, kids. So then he says to Angela, you look especially pretty this morning. He said, your hair looks nice. What did you do to it? And she says, I sweated on it. And she's not at all catching his points here. And so then he asks Angela, would you like to go out tonight? He gets right to the point.
Yeah, yeah. Why waste time?
Now, we know it's been a while since Tony's asked anyone out on a date. And it's obviously been a while since Angela's been on one. So the two of them are rusty. And she says, oh, yes, that sounds great. Why don't we go to the new Mexican place? And she says, why don't we all go? And he's like, oh, what do you mean all of us? And she's like, me, you, mother, and the kids. And then Tony's like, okay, well, we could do that. Or maybe we could go without them, and it could just be you and me. And she's like, why? And he's like, well, because... Do you not have this part?
I don't. That's why I'm watching yours. I just realized I don't have it.
Oh, okay.
It goes right into, remember, Jonathan fixed this up, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the first time she says, why? And he's like, well, because, you deserve to go out on a date, and that's not something that, you deserve a night out on the town.
Yeah, night on the town.
And then she's like, you mean a date? And he says, yeah. And she says, why? And he's like, well, because we've never done anything like that before. And then this is where it picks up. Okay, yeah. And she says, yes, we have. Don't you remember when Jonathan fixed us up at that restaurant? We went to Chez Rene. And Tony says, yeah, well, that was a misunderstanding. And she says, okay, well, last year we went to the ad awards together. He says, well, that was business. And then she says, remember that time we went to 101 Dalmatians? Now, what's funny about this is 2 out of 3 of those... I think we've seen, because 101 Dalmatians is the episode when he moves out and then he moves back, and he says at the end, 101 Dalmatians is still playing at the theater. Do you want to go?
Oh, okay.
And we've seen the episode where Jonathan set them up on the date.
Chez Rene, the fancy place.
Now, unless they're talking about the ad awards being the time that Rita Wilson won, I don't think we've seen that, because I feel like that was much longer ago than her saying the ad awards last year. But I thought that was interesting that they actually called back to 3 times, 2 out of which we've actually seen.
Yeah, that we've actually seen.
Yeah. And then Angela's like, well, okay, we actually... Tony's like, oh, yeah, okay, whatever. Then we've been on plenty of dates. Let's not go on a date. And then Angela realizes what's happening. And she's like, oh, well, we've never actually been out on a date, so... okay. And at this point, he's just kind of annoyed with her. And he's like, okay, great, thank you. So they're looking, they seem like nervous around each other. And Angela says, it's just us. It's me and you. Like, this is no big deal. And then they both kind of look off screen as if this is a big deal. Yeah. So they're nervous. Now we're to the night of the date. Tony's pacing because Angela's not downstairs yet. And he's like, she's taking forever. And Jonathan's like, you know how women are.
I know. What does he know?
I know. Then he asks Jonathan, how does this tie work with the jacket? And he's like, you look great. Don't worry about it. He's like, you're too nervous.
I think he's wearing one of Jonathan's ties.
I know, that tie really is small and just like awkward.
I know. Why is it so small?
I don't
know. A little child tie.
And Jonathan says, I know you haven't dated in a while. So it's good they're actually referencing the fact that Tony hasn't dated in a while. And he says, let me give you a little advice. Like Jonathan knows anything about women.
Again.
He says, I have this great move for putting your arm around a girl. And he does the stretch and the lean, and he puts his arm on Tony's shoulder.
That's such a lame move. It's old.
But
it's a tired move.
But Jonathan's only 12.
Yeah, I guess so.
What moves do you think he's supposed to have? And Tony says, has that actually worked on a girl before? And he says that it did work on some girl in science class, but she was still under the effects of ether.
Wendy Fisher.
Wendy Fisher? Okay.
That's what the name said. I don't know.
That's like a little rapey. It's a light rapey joke.
It is. I thought the same thing, but...
that joke would not fly now.
Like, did he give her the ether? and then put his...
I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing she was passed out from some sort of science project, and he took the opportunity to put his arm around her.
Yeah, either way, it's not good.
Right, no.
It's worse if he gave it to her, but still not good.
Yeah, it's not a joke we'd hear on TV today. Now, upstairs, Angela is getting ready with Samantha and Mona in her bedroom.
The shoulder pads. This is like...
Oh, God.
This is like 8 out of 10 on
Okay,
the
hang
scale
on.
of 1 to 10.
Let's look around this room a bit. So,
Right.
I think pretty much everything's the same. The canopy on the bed's been gone for a while.
Right.
But the furniture is back to
the original layout.
Yeah, the original layout, not the layout.
Right? Yeah. Just the original layout without the canopy.
Right, yes. Where the bathroom's on that side and the dresser's there. They have this addition of like a vanity that I don't know that we have seen before.
Oh, okay.
But that's going to stay there because I remember seeing that in like a season 8 episode. So Angela comes out. Yes, and this dress is pretty.
It's just out of the
it's
shoulder pads. I don't.
Yeah, it's just a lot of
seriously look like
dress.
she's wearing a football player's shoulder pads. They're so big.
Yes, and there's a lot going on
I know
the
that
waist
was the look,
part.
but my gosh.
Yeah.
And Samantha's wearing something that looks like the open to the Saved by the Bell show.
Yes, it does.
What is happening with that vest or jacket?
It is very colorful.
It is 80s.
Yes.
It's totally 80s.
But this is really cute because they're both in there like helping her get ready for this date. And
Sorry, I'm ruining your special moment here.
no, you're not at all. But like that's the thing with this episode that I have such a hard time with. Like you would think that this would be pretty monumental for them.
Right.
And it's kind of just weird and then never talked about again.
Yeah.
Like you would think that the kids are obviously excited that the two of them are going out because they have way more invested in this than we probably realize. You know, if
and Mona too, apparently.
Yes, yeah, definitely. But like if you're a kid and this is the woman that you consider to be your mom and this is the guy that you consider to be your dad and now there's a chance that they could really get married and you guys could be a real family, I think you would really be like excited about that. And I feel like the kids are, but this whole episode is just dealt with in such a casual way that it's very odd. Okay,
I know, but they can't be all too serious because
I know because
they know
we're
they're not
going to
getting
drag.
together, and we got to wait 3 more
'cause
seasons.
We're only doing this as a plot device, and it's not actually going to really move them forward. So Angela comes out wearing the dress. She's like, "How do I look?" They're telling her, "You look fantastic." And Mona's like, "It's just as nice as the other 6 you tried on." So Angela's really trying to, impress Tony, and she's like, "I can't wear this. He's seen it." And Samantha says, "He's seen you in everything."
Right.
Yeah. And then Mona says, "What he hasn't seen you in, he's rinsed by hand." Which is fantastic. And true. Like, he has seen her in everything, considering all of her pajamas and her bathrobes. And the only stuff he hasn't seen her in is her underwear.
Right.
Which he has to wash anyway.
Right.
So she's like, "Okay, no, this isn't going to do. I'm going to go change." And then she says to Samantha, "Go downstairs and tell your dad I'll be right there." And she's like, "No, because I'm not going to lie to him." And Angela's like, "Just try." So she says, "Okay, oh, hang on. There's a super creepy doll in the corner of Angela's bedroom here." Oh, my closed captioning's in the way. Shoot. Did you see it?
I saw it,
Yeah, it's like a ghost doll.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's way creepy.
What nightmares are made of.
I feel like it used to be a Raggedy Ann or something. Not that creepy. But it's very fitting for Angela. Sorry, go ahead.
I feel like, well, keep playing yours, and I want to see what happens.
Okay.
I feel like I'm missing something else again.
Yeah, I think you are. So Samantha's like, "Okay, I'll go downstairs, tell Dad you're getting ready." And she leaves. So now we have, we've gotten rid of the child so we can have a bit of the adult joke. Wait a minute, you don't have this?
No, I do. I do. I think I just, you know what it is that, never mind. Go ahead.
Okay.
My thing like skips ahead sometimes.
Oh, okay.
DVR.
Mona asks Angela, "Where is he taking you?" And she says, "I don't know. He's being very mysterious. It's probably just someplace very quaint and romantic."
Yeah, okay.
So Angela has her hopes up about this evening as well. And she says to Mona, "I just can't help but wonder, like, is this going to be leading to something? Is this going to be something?" It's not.
I know, I got bad news.
And Mona's like, stop trying to overthink everything and just let it happen. And
Going
then
to be just as disappointed as the rest of us.
right, exactly. And Angela's like, oh, and then maybe it's leading to nothing. And now you're talking.
All right.
That's what. Yes, nothing is where we're leading. So they decide that they're going to stop analyzing this, and Angela's going to have a good time. So as she gets ready to leave, Mona says, hang on. You don't want to walk out the door with one of these. Without one of these.
Yeah.
And she tosses her what looks to be a square packet with something in it.
Yeah.
And the audience just, like, it took them a while. Like, Judith Light had to wait a while before she said her next line because the audience was laughing pretty hard. So she catches whatever it is in her hand, and she looks down, and then she says, a wash and dry?
Not what you think it is.
No, it's not at all what we thought it was going to be. And Mona says, what did you think it was going to be? And Angela says, let's not analyze this. I like that she thinks, and it's completely in character for Mona to have just handed her daughter a condom that she was going to use, in the car? When she's 39 years old.
I don't Right, like why does she need to carry it around?
Right, or maybe she was hoping that she would just bring it back to the bedroom.
Yeah, the hope is that it's going to go down upstairs, so you better keep it there.
Yeah, just leave it on the nightstand. Now, Mona comes down the stairs. No one's having sex in that room. Mona's coming down the stairs, and she introduces Angela. So they really are making a big deal out of this.
I know.
As if it's really going to lead to something. Angela comes down, and she does a little twirl, and then Mona says, don't milk it, dear. Because you only get Mona to be nice to you for,
I know.
20 seconds out of every minute. So Tony says, you look beautiful.
Beautiful.
And Angela says, should we go? And he's like, oh, hang on. 1 minute. And this part's really cute. Like, here's the Tony, I think, that set up her prom night, and does all these sweet things for Angela. He runs outside, and then he knocks on the door. And she's like, oh, she sees what he's doing. So she's like, who is it? And she opens the door, and now he's standing there with some flowers. That was very cute. He started strong, and it goes downhill.
Smooth.
Yeah. So then she lets him in the door, and she thinks it's very sweet that he has flowers. He tells her, you have such a lovely home. It's so clean. And then Angela's like, okay, well, should we go? And then he looks over, and he's like, wait a minute. You didn't tell me you had children. And he's like, I guess I could learn to love them. And then Mona and the kids yell for them to leave already.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Go.
All right, now let's clock this date. So they've now left. They're on their way.
Right.
The next scene we see is them getting to a comedy club. Now, okay, I can see Tony maybe trying to do something different. Like he gets an E for effort for planning something that he thinks is going to be interesting.
Yeah, that's what I think.
But I do think he's got to know Angela better than this. Like, he has to know that this wasn't what she was probably expecting was going to happen. So they get to a comedy club. And he's like, I hear that this place is such a great time. Even the waiters are funny. And he says, is there something wrong? And she's like, oh, no, I just, I wasn't really expecting a comedy club. And he's like, well, are you disappointed? And she's like, no, it'll be fun. This will be fun.
No, she's disappointed.
Yes, exactly. So a waitress comes by, and Tony says, can you get us a table up front? Because this is a special night for us. And the waitress says,
some cash. I don't know what he gives her.
Oh, yeah, you're right. The waitress says, then what are you doing here? But he thinks this is all part of the bit, so he's laughing. He thinks she's hilarious. But she's not joking. Oh, hang on. You know what I forgot to do earlier?
What?
I forgot to say who played Bart, one, but also, okay, so this actress is Bettina Devon.
Yeah.
And she is still working today.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I looked her up earlier.
2021, she has like 1, 2, 3 things coming out.
Oh, good.
And nothing that I really would recognize her from, but still working.
I don't think.
And then I forgot that so Bart is Marshall R. Teague, and he's also still working today. He's got a few things coming out also in pre-production.
Oh.
And then there is some stuff that people may recognize him from. 49 episodes of a show called American Heiress. He was in Walker. I don't know. It was 2007. He was in Walker, Texas Ranger, Babylon 5. So I don't recognize him, but I think that people probably would recognize him. Days of Our Lives, Generations. So a few things. Okay. So she brings them over to a table right up front. And Tony's already laughing. He thinks that the joke about her thinking that they shouldn't be there is hysterical. He's laughing all the way to the table. So he's excited that they're right in front of the stage, and he says, nothing's too good for our first date. So they put their coats down, they sit down, and Angela's arm gets stuck to the table. So I guess...
So gross.
Yes, I guess this is the joke that not only is this a comedy club, but it's like a divey comedy club.
Yeah,
And-
where they don't clean the tables.
Yeah. So he's like, so far so good, right? And she's like, oh yeah, I could stay like this all night. And he's like, oh. And then she's like, no, my arm is stuck to the table. So she's like, but don't worry, I'm prepared. And she gets out a wash and dry and then cleans the table off.
Yep.
So we get the call back to the wash and dry pretty
Yep.
early in the date here.
Yeah, it's gone already.
Yep.
Thank God she had it.
And she like so daintily wipes up the mess on the table. So then Tony asks her how work is. And she's like, hey, you know what, Tony? Since this is a date, let's try to not talk about work. Let's try to not talk about kids. And let's try to not talk about school. Well, here's the problem with Tony and Angela at this point. They're already married, whether they realize it or not.
Right.
And when you go out on a date as a married couple, you don't have anything else to talk about.
No, yeah, it's sad.
Right? I mean, we always end up talking about the kids, even if we try not to.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of effort and drinks to get to a place
To get to
where you can
talking
find
about-
conversation at this point that you haven't already talked about 600 times.
True.
What,
That's true.
Miles? So he's like, okay, great. Perfect. No kids, no school, no work. And Angela says, I'm sure there's a ton of things that we need to discover about ourselves. He's like, oh, yeah. I've never told you the funny story about me and Joe Garagiola.
I think. I think you're right.
And then Angela says, no, you haven't. You've told me the story about how you stepped on his foot, but what's the funny one?
That's unfortunate.
And he's like, oh, that actually was
Never
the
mind.
story. So then they're like, okay. And Angela says, I bet you don't know what my middle name is. And he says, it's Catherine. And she says, I bet you don't know why it's Catherine. He says, it was your maternal grandmother's name.
Middle name, yeah.
Then she says, okay, what's my favorite color, favorite author, favorite Beatles song, and favorite color? And he knows them all. Jane Austen, Hey Jude, and Green. He even knows the shade, which is emerald.
Wow.
Yeah. So then she says, so now she digs deep. She's like, okay, when I was 7 years old, our gardener, he says, Ben, gave me a kitten, little black Persian, one eye crossed. And she says, what was the name of, and he says, Little Whiskers. And then she says, the gardener's wife. And he says, Ben never married.
Wow, he knows a lot.
He knows it all. So they really do know everything about each other at this point. And she says, wow. He says, wow, this is scary.
Wow.
And she says, yeah, but it's also kind of nice. And he's like, yeah, but it's still scary. So then, a little drummer plays like a small riff, and a guy comes running out onto the stage.
Yeah.
And the sign lights up behind him that says, Gutbusters. He introduces himself as Andy Drake. And Tony is already laughing. All the guy does is come out and introduce himself. And Tony just starts hysterically laughing for
Trying to sell
absolutely
it.
no really reason. Yeah. And this is where things really start to go downhill for Tony. So this actor's name is Tom Villard. And yeah, so I had no idea, but you discovered that he has passed away.
Yes. Yep. Passed away in
At
90.
40 years old in 1994.
94.
And he has a very recognizable face. Like I
He
remember
did, well, I
him-
remember him I remember him in My Girl, Shakes the Clown. He's in, which I remember him. And One Crazy Summer, I totally remember him in.
So I know I remember that movie, but I don't remember him. I mean, I'm sure if I saw him, I would recognize who he played in that. He was also in an episode of Taxi. And he was in Grease 2, which I love, which is the
Oh, yeah. If you
The
saw it now, you
lesser-known
probably
Grease.
wouldn't know. The lesser known. That's what we'll refer to it as. The lesser known Grease.
With the well-known Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah, and the movie My Girl and a couple episodes of Golden Girls. But yes, so he died in 1994 at the age of 40. It's very sad. So he introduces himself. Tony's already laughing. Then he says, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say this is a very special night for me because right before I came out here, I signed a deal with Columbia Records, and everybody claps for him. And he says, yes, I received my first CDs wait, is it CDs or is it cassette tapes even?
Yeah, it's with Columbia Records, and then he says that they mail the first album in 6 weeks.
Album, okay, yeah.
So
I don't even think
no one's going to get
we're not
that
even
joke
at
today.
CD point, are we?
80s? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it was
No,
cassettes
yeah, I don't think I got...
I think it was mostly cassettes and
Yeah,
records.
I think you're right. So, and if anyone remembers what that was, you could sign up with Columbia Records, and then they would like send you.
Yeah, Columbia. And it was like 1 penny.
Yeah, like
and
a
you
penny.
get 17, but then like you got charged for like $17 per album or something. It was terrible.
Oh my goodness, ridiculous.
I know, it's so bad.
I have a vivid memory of my very first CD because my mom got me a CD player. And whatever year the movie Robin Hood came out, I got I'm such a dork.
It's like
my
91
first
or
CD
92 or something, I think.
was the music soundtrack to the movie Robin Hood with Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner, yeah.
I'm a loser. But the music was really pretty in that.
Wasn't that Bryan Adams?
Yes, it has the Bryan Adams song on it, and then the rest of it's like instrumental stuff. Okay, so Tony thought that joke was hilarious. So now the guy's like, okay, I got to come talk to this guy because he's sitting up front and he's laughing at everything I'm saying. So he says, what's your name, sir? And he's like, it's Tony. And I think he says it twice, Tony. And so then the guy makes fun of him like, hi, Tony. Who's the lady next to you? And he says, it's Angela. And then he's like, oh, sorry. So he starts to pry a little bit as to how they know each other. And Tony's excited. He's like, listen, look, if we hadn't sat right here up front, this guy would have never started talking to us.
Yeah.
And Angela's thinking, exactly.
Yeah.
Because this is her worst nightmare. So he asks, what are you guys doing here? Tony says, we're on a date. And the guy makes some also terrible joke about how he went on a date with a girl last week. She said no petting, so he left his dog at home. But Tony thinks it's very funny. Then
he does.
He says, how long have you been dating? He says, oh, this is our first date. And he's like, oh, okay, well, how long have you guys known each other? He says, 5 years. And Tony says, the guy says, oh, you're a fast mover. When's the second date? 1994? You know, this guy's not far off.
No, he's not.
He's minus 2 years, and he's about
this man
right.
actually passed away in 1994.
Oh, yes, that's
See?
sad.
Weird.
Yeah. But their second date's about 1992, so he's not that far off. So then he says, well, how did you guys meet? And he says, I work for her. And now he's very intrigued. He's like, oh, okay, well, what do you do? And he says, I'm her housekeeper. And of course, now this is going to be what the guy's going to completely make fun of. So he's like, oh, are you rebounding from the pool guy? And now Tony's thinking, we should have sat in the back. Oh, what are we doing up here?
Yep.
So here's the part that you don't have, which is why you didn't know who Earl was. So now he walks away from Tony and Angela, and he goes up to this other guy named Earl. And he asks Earl, like, what's your name? And he says, it's Earl. What do you do? And the guy does something completely boring. He says, I'm a savings and loan accountant. And then the guy's like, okay, well, never mind. I'm going back over to Tony and Angela because you're boring. So
Poor Earl.
Yeah, who's that? Do we recognize Earl from anything else?
I don't know. It says Christopher J. Keene. And
it looks like he was in Naked Gun.
Yeah. The last thing he did was 1996.
Oh, wow.
And he's still alive, so I don't know. You know what it says? I read up
he's
on
in the
him.
movie
He's an
Ghost.
entertainment lawyer now.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yes. That's what I'm getting confused with somebody else.
Gotcha.
He's an entertainment lawyer now.
Okay.
Which is good. A lot of actors make that leap into...
Yeah. Who's the other one? Chunk from Goonies, right? Isn't he an entertainment lawyer now?
I think he's an entertainment lawyer or something, yeah.
Okay, so he's like, okay, well, never mind, you're boring. I'm going back over to the housekeeper. So he's like, you two just fascinate me. So he says to Angela, how many times does he come over a week to clean your house? And then she's like, he lives with us. All quiet.
I know, it just gets worse.
No. And he's like, wait. He lives with you? And he's like, and who is us? And she says, well, my mother, my son, and his daughter. So now this guy's like, oh, is this a commune? Where does the goat sleep? Yeah. So he starts saying, like, you guys are really weird. Like, you live together already. You're finally on your first date after 5 years. And now Tony's getting mad. He's like, oh, there's nothing weird about our relationship. And then he says, well, why are you even on a date then? Like, what is the occasion? Did you get a new vacuum cleaner? And Tony...
Did you get a new vacuum cleaner?
And Tony says, no, there's no occasion. Just Angela hasn't really had a chance to get out and meet anyone. And she hasn't been on a real date in a while. And now Angela's like, wait a minute. What do you mean real date? And she realizes that, of course, Mona blabbed. Did she ever think that Mona was not going to tell what happened here? And she says, did Mother tell you about last night? And then he says, Tony says, there's no shame in hiring an escort. Which, of course, by saying that in front of this idiot, is going to spark even more jokes. So now the guy is like, and this comedian's like, man, I couldn't have been handed a better table tonight than to have these people to completely make fun of.
These two yahoos expose themselves.
Right. So Angela's like, so that's what this is about. This isn't a real date at all. And he says, no, it is. And she's like, no, this is a pity date. And she gets mad. And then the comedian's like, it's times like this that just make me love my job. And Angela stands up and punches him in the face.
No, like now we got an assault charge.
I know. I know.
And that guy just goes down like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, he hits the stage and doesn't get up again.
Yeah, he's out.
And Angela grabs all her shit and leaves.
And Tony's all concerned about him for a second.
Yeah, and then he's like, you know what, I should probably just go chase her out instead. Okay, so how long do you think they were there total? They got there, they sat, right? Yeah.
20 minutes?
Not long. Then they get in the car and they drive home. So at home, Mona and Sam are sitting on the couch, and Jonathan comes running down the stairs, and he's like, they're back. Let's see what happened. Guys, it's only been a half an hour. This obviously was a horrible date if they're already back.
Yeah, maybe the place was far. I don't know.
So then they want to know if they kissed goodnight. And Mona's like, no, we can't do that. You got to turn the lights off first so that you can see outside. So they're all standing there looking out the window, hoping they're going to catch them kissing goodnight. And the door comes flying open.
Yeah. Didn't go well.
And what does he say? They say we're home, and then she says go to hell, and he says lead the way. And
lead the way.
And she passes him and goes upstairs. And Aunt Mona says, what a waste of a wash and dry.
Funny.
Yes.
Because the joke is still there.
Yeah.
The condom joke is still there.
Bringing it back. Gosh, this episode's almost over.
Oh.
It's really interesting how, like, it's the same amount of time as a regular episode, but I feel like not a lot happens in this episode.
I know. There's been a few of those.
Yeah, there have been.
Where I'm like, oh.
Wow.
Or it ends, and I'm like, I'm not really sure about the resolution here, but okay.
Okay, so now it's later that night. Angela's in her bathrobe because Tony's seen her and everything. And she's getting ice out of the refrigerator. Actually, she has like the bucket of ice out of the refrigerator, and her hand is just in it because apparently whatever she did to this man.
This house.
I know.
Drink out of cartons. Nobody. They lick their fingers and touch food.
Sticking hands in ice buckets.
I don't understand.
Yeah, what is she gonna do? Put that back in there to be used?
I think so.
And how hard did she punch this guy? That would your hand really hurt?
He was knocked out.
Yeah.
He fell on the stage and he didn't move.
So Tony comes in and he catches her with her hand in the ice bucket. She tries to pull it out and pretend like she was just getting a drink. And she walks over and he asks her, how are you okay? And she says, I'm fine. I just came down here to get a drink. Tony goes into the refrigerator and then just pulls out a drumstick.
Why is the drumstick just sitting there?
I don't know.
Exposed.
Like it's not in Tupperware or anything. It was just sitting on a plate.
I'm surprised everybody didn't get some kind of E. coli or salmonella or something.
So he says, is your hand okay? And she's like, I said I'm fine. And she shows him her hand. And he's like, oh, yeah? Well, can you do this? And he kind of squeezes like he's milking a cow. And she does the same thing back. And he's like, okay, well, then can you do this? And now he's like...
Yeah, he's hand jiving now. I don't know what's happening.
And then she does it back, and he's like, not bad. And then she turns around, and you can tell her hand hurts, and she sticks it into the ice bucket. And as he walks out with just a drumstick in his hand, not a napkin or a plate or a fork, he says, you better get some ice on that. And Angela says, I know what I'm doing. I don't need your help. And he's like, just let me help you. And she's like, I don't want your help, and I don't want your pity. Which is the real thing that's upsetting Angela here. And he says, now, let's get something straight. I did not ask you out because of pity. I asked you out because you're beautiful, you're smart, you're funny, and you're beautiful. And she says, you already said beautiful. Again. And he says, I know I said it twice. I always say it twice. So if that makes me such a terrible person, then shoot me.
Oh, boy. It's
a little dramatic.
Yeah. Jesus.
But, I mean, it is very cute that he always says that she's beautiful twice. So why are you not banging? This is ridiculous.
I don't know.
We've really hit the end of our patience here with
look
this.
Look at the shoulder pads on that robe. They're intense.
As always, everything's got shoulder pads.
I know. That's just a closet full of shoulder pads.
So he leaves, and he goes out into the living room with his drumstick.
With his drumstick.
So now she comes out, and okay, watch this. As she comes out into the living room, Tony, who might have taken a bite of the drumstick and then set it down, now wipes his hands all over his pants.
I don't know what these people are doing.
And he has no plate, so his drumstick is like on a book or something.
And they're probably hungry because they didn't really eat dinner, right?
They didn't. They had no dinner.
So, yeah.
They were out for 35 minutes. Club. Yeah. What a miserable date. And then would they send everybody to bed because they were so mad?
I guess. I don't know.
So Angela comes out and she asks him, will you please help me wrap my hand? And he's like, all right, come over here. So she comes and sits down next to him. And he takes she has a hand towel in her hand, and she brought out the ice. So he puts some in there, and he starts to wrap it up. And he says, Angela, when you do this, you got to keep your elbow in when you punch and not let your arm go out. That's why your hand hurts.
Oh, okay. Right. Expert.
Yeah, and then he puts the little towel of ice on her hand, and she says, thank you. And then she asks him, do you think that you'll ever ask me out again? And he was like, He's really thinking, And then she punches him in the arm. And he's like, okay, that was better. See, that time you kept your elbow in.
Wacky.
And he says, yes, I will ask you out again. So then he notices that the Marx Brothers is on. And he's like, oh, this is my favorite. And Angela says, I know that. I knew that. Because calling back to the fact that they know everything about each other.
That's right.
So they sit down on the couch and they kind of settle in and they're watching the show. Or is it a movie? I don't even know. And then Tony does a little yawn. And he puts his arm around Angela.
Yeah, he does the move.
Yeah, it does the Jonathan move.
The Jonathan move.
And at some point here also, she asked him, do you think that we have a weird relationship? And he said, no. You do. You guys have a really weird relationship.
Yeah,
it's time to move this along here.
Who's the boss will be back in a moment. Stick around.
In the tag, they are getting ready to go to the Mexican restaurant that Angela recommended the first time, which I just realized right now. I forgot that that's where they were actually going.
Oh, right. Yes, I remember that now.
So Angela's doing any final primping in the mirror, and Tony yells upstairs, which we haven't heard in a while, come on, gang, let's hit it, let's move it, let's do it. That's a Tony phrase right there. Such a Tony
thing.
I know. So he says, Casa Adobe awaits. Now the kids come downstairs, and Samantha says, sorry, Dad, I can't. I'm going to Bonnie's to study. Jonathan says, I'm going to Stevens. And Mona says, I just ate. For the first time ever, Mona managed to eat without Tony feeding her.
Yeah, how did
now
she figure that one
suddenly
out?
she just ate. I think they're doing this all on purpose to try to get them to go on another date.
Right.
They knew it was up. And Angela's like, all right, well, I guess it's just us. It's a date. And then she's like, oh, sorry. Hang on. It's not a date. It's just two people going out, eating tacos, sitting in the same booth. And they're like, yeah. And then Tony shuts
to me.
Yeah. Then Tony shuts the door and says, let's order in. Ordering in's even more dangerous, no?
I don't know, I guess.
You're
yeah.
already there.
Although there's a bunch of people there, the kids.
Well, the kids left and Mona did too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they did all
Break out some alcohol, sit right there on that coffee table. Let's see if we can move this upstairs.
Yeah. You know it doesn't happen, so
no,
stop.
it doesn't. It doesn't happen. And so that is the end of the episode.
And that's it. Yeah, another disappointing episode that felt like it had potential.
So, Nick, I think we got to keep track of this too, because I feel like now they kind of start this thing where they are dating without dating.
Okay.
Like they do things together all the time, but it's
Okay.
just not considered a date, and there's no making out or using wash and dries. All right. You go. Who goes first with rating? I'm all out of sorts with this new
I think
software,
I do,
and I don't even.
but-
That doesn't even have anything to do with it.
I think I
Okay,
do.
you go first.
Rating?
Yes.
Okay. I gave this episode a 7.
Okay.
I kept going back and forth, which is why I was hesitating there as I said it. No, I still like the episode. It's kind of the beginning, sort of.
Yeah.
Like the
it's
dating.
it's the prologue.
Right. The dating.
We got a lot of shit to get through.
There's some things I didn't like about it. Like, yeah, Tony was very nice with the flowers, and he did the whole thing and knocking on the door. But I don't know. Maybe I know Angela's expecting something, romantic, but I don't think that was that bad. Go to a comedy club, but
No.
maybe like a dinner and then a comedy club. But don't combine the dinner with the comedy club.
Right.
The comedy clubs don't have good food. We know that.
Yeah, that is true.
They have like stuff they throw in a toaster oven.
And like this date probably wouldn't have been terrible if they hadn't been harassed by the actual comedian.
Well, yeah, then it just really took a turn.
Yeah.
So.
But it wasn't what she was imagining at all.
No, and I get it. But yeah, overall, a 7.
Okay. Yeah, I had the same rating.
Okay.
I mean, I can't not give it a 7 just because it deals with their relationship, even though it gets us nowhere.
Right.
You think that we're going to get somewhere.
Right.
And we do get to, like, Tony did start off strong with the flowers. We do get the fact, the little nugget of information that Tony always says she's beautiful twice.
Yes. Beautiful.
Which, I mean, I guess we already knew that he thought she was beautiful because he's actually in love with her, so whatever.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, it had some cute, and then the ending is really cute where he helps her wrap her hand and he puts his arm around her. So it's almost like they're going to maybe move forward without actually saying they're moving forward, even though they don't really move forward.
Don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Who's the boss around here? Me? Or my mother? Or maybe it's you?
I'm going to go with Angela as the boss.
Okay.
Because she didn't have a date for that ad awards, and she just kind of took matters into her own hands and was like, I'll just hire this guy.
Okay.
Then when she got asked out on the date, she was like, okay, yeah, let's see where this is going to go. And then she punched the comedian once he got out of hand. Then she left Tony at the restaurant or comedy club once she figured it was a pity date
Sure.
and stood her ground. And then he came around and got her to forgive him. So, I don't know. I had a hard time, but I'm just going to go.
I did
She's
too.
boss ass bitch. So we're just going to go with that.
Okay, that
for
works.
this episode.
I mean, maybe now that you're saying that, it makes a little more sense than mine. But
No, who's yours?
I went with Mona.
Yeah, that was the other one because she actually orchestrated the whole
she
thing.
orchestrated the whole thing and
Yeah.
pushed for it, and really helped Angela. Well, it was kind of nice that she helped her.
Yeah.
As much as she did, except for the end when she said, "Don't push it," but still. She did help get her, ready for the date and all that stuff, and she pushed the whole thing and really convinced Tony to do it. So I'm gonna go with Mona.
Yeah,
as the boss.
and even though we didn't see it happen, I'm pretty sure she orchestrated the kids leaving them to go to the Mexican place by themselves. Also,
that's true.
I have
Yeah,
a
you're right.
feeling.
You're probably right
Yeah.
for the second chance because
Yeah.
we all know we have learned that Mona's not gonna give up.
No,
Ever.
never give up.
Never.
Okay, so you can reach us at Who's the Boss Podcast on Instagram or Who's the Boss Pod 1 on Twitter. On Facebook, our page is the Who's the Boss Podcast page, or go to anchor.fm/WTB podcast, and there you can leave us a voice message. And the next episode, okay, so this next one, Party Double, which I know you're excited about because Frank Sinatra has
Sinatra's in
a
it.
cameo.
Yeah.
But it's going to be like I'm watching this for the first time. I don't think that I've rewatched this since it first aired.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to it.
Right.
I can't remember it either, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you probably haven't seen it.
Matter
at
of
all.
fact, when we were like scanning through the episodes, I noticed that. I'm like, why is Frank Sinatra on an episode? So I thought that was kind of
Yeah,
cool.
we'll have to do a little bit of the backstory as to how that came about also. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
All right, bye.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give a big thumbs up and tell all your friends. And maybe You can tell your grandma, your mother, and your sister or brother. Maybe have no siblings. Tell your dog and cats. Bye.